Well, when you look at the concept and the framework of the state of emergency, it's, it encompasses quite many items. So it can, limit it can limit the time of you being able to go out, during the, particularly in the evening. It can affect ability of publishing or not publishing. It can affect, you have to carry at least an identification card all the time, etc., etc. So it has many items. But what I see with this declaration of the state of emergency and also the announcement that follow up after this declaration, this is very much particularly focused on the making this fight with the Gülenists much more effective. What I mean by this, because there are so many legal loopholes in the system, and then when you try to, previously when the government when the government was trying to deal with this Gülenist challenge, they were always faced with legal loopholes, meaning that the Gülenists knew how to use the legal system, knew how to twist the legal system, and therefore the fight against the Gülenist system became much more cumbersome.
So how will the government now be able to clamp down on the Gülenist movement, of course, that it considers a terrorist group, using this state of emergency? What will change over the next 3 months?
Well, the state of emergency allow you to adopt decree having the effect of law, legislation. And this decrease is much more effective and much more, it's not that time consuming. So you can put aside some of the legalities, some of the technicalities that you need to follow up in the other normal legal procedures. So it makes the process much more faster, much more, to the point and effective. But on the other hand, for instance, the President Erdogan said, call upon the citizen to continue with their, with their marching, with their resistance, with their rejection of the coup on the streets, outside of the homes, etc. That means, more or less, the ordinary citizen will not be the primary target of this state of emergency. It is very much focused on the Gülenists, which is designated as a terrorist organization by Turkish state. So, in a sense, its effect on public life seems to be relatively lower than its impact on the fight against the Gülenists.
It seems as if the government is perhaps anticipating some criticism from Western nations about this state of emergency. They've launched almost a preemptive strike, haven't they, against certain countries. How do you think Western countries in particular, I guess I'm looking at Washington, how do you think they will react to what's been declared?
I don't expect a big reaction to the announcement of the state of emergency in itself. I think we might see much more criticism or reaction to possible some of the possible processes or some of the possible acts that might follow up. Because in the end, the U.S. recognizes the need for the state of emergency. It also adopted state of emergency previously on several occasions. France has recently done the same. So it is not something unique to Turkey. It has nothing particular. It has nothing particular about Turkey in terms of state of emergency. So as a reaction to the state of emergency, the fact that Turkey has announced a state of emergency, I don't think that this will receive criticism that much, particularly from the official lines, for a very simple reason, because given the challenge that Turkey has faced with the coup attempt, and which was, which basically verged on a, in a sense, on a terror campaign, because by bombing the nation parliament, by bombing the presidential palace, the intelligence, think of that, to put it in perspective, it will be similar to, a group bombing the Congress, White House, CIA,
well, you mentioned the word terror. Finally, Galip, I want to ask you what implications this might have for Turkey's wider security challenges. I'm thinking, of course, Daesh and the PKK. Will this have any impact on that at all? Well,
I mean, on the one hand, it will be, it will have a positive impact in the fight against terrorism for a very simple reason, because these measures the France also adopted to make its fight against the Daesh much more effective after the Daesh attack in Paris and also in Nice. So as a concept, the state of emergency, one of the reasons that is the state of emergency is being introduced is to make the fight against the terrorism or related activities much more effective. This is not the only reason that the state of emergency is introduced, but fighting terrorism is one of the quite common reason why the state of emergency is introduced in the first place. But on the other hand, given the trouble within the Turkish military, because the challenge posed to the government came from a fraction within the military, given the fact that that will consume Turkey's energy, Turkey's time, that will shift Turkey's attention away from some of its, focus, that will to some extent, I think, will at least take away some of the resources, attention, measures that is needed to fight on the other front with the terrorism. But this is a challenge. I think, the government has to sort it out.